Good enough room?
All good. All right, at this time, we'll call the meeting of the Canyon City Commission to order. I have 4:33, and with that, Commissioner Potter, would you lead us in the invocation?
Yes, sir. Dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful to be here. And Lord, we just thank you for the representation that we have from the citizens of Canyon today. And Lord, just help us make decisions that glorify Canyon, glorify you. And in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
I'll stand up and do the pledge with me. Right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we do have a great crowd here today. We appreciate everybody being here and the interest of all of our citizens here. So thank you much. Next item is item number 4, approval of the minutes of the meeting of December 2nd, 2025.
With no changes, I'll move we approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve as written. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. All right, item number 5 is public comment, comments from interested citizens. I think we have a lot of interested citizens here today. And the way that we start doing this is grouping this if there are comments with a specific item. And so with that, we have 2 different items that we have folks that have signed in on. And Gretchen, do we have anybody else that signed in otherwise than these 2 items?
No, Mayor, nobody signed in for the public hearing for item 6.
Okay, thank you. Well, we will go ahead and close the comments from interested citizens, but those will be open on the items as we address those. So. All right, item number 6, conduct a public hearing and consider and take appropriate action on a specific use permit to operate an accessory building, sales, and display business at 112 US Highway 60. Dustin?
He's making his way up, sir.
New Year.
Good evening, Commission. I hope everybody's doing well and off to a good start to their new year. This last December, the Planning and Zoning Commission considered a specific use permit request from Ms. Brittany Russell to operate an accessory building sales and display business at US Highway 60, 1212 US Highway 60. The Commission may remember that in July of 2025, this body actually took action to amend the zoning regulations to allow for accessory building sales by specific use permit in a RC2 commercial district. Just as a reminder, the SUP is a tool that allows property owners to use their land for purposes not typically permitted under the existing zoning regulations, while allowing the city to consider how best to maybe minimize the impacts of that development. So the SUP process also enables the city to impose reasonable restrictions to ensure compatibility with surrounding land uses. This project, being located off of US Highway 60 and at the exit for 15th Street, is a key gateway into the downtown area of Canyon. But the area along Highway 60 is zoned transitionally, which basically means that it reduces the allowed uses as you move into the center city of Canyon. However, the proposed use is not out of character of the surrounding land uses that currently exist, with industrial zoning being 2 blocks to the west and 1 block to the south. As part of the SUP process, we did notify all property owners within 200 feet. We received 2 letters back, 1 in support of the request and 1 response with no opposition was received. So taking all this into consideration, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the requested specific use permit for initial period. The only thing they put on it was an initial period of 5 years with no other restrictions. And I can answer any questions, and I believe Ms. Russell is here as well.
Do we have any further questions from the commission?
I move that we,
Excuse me, Commissioner Potter, we've got a public hearing.
okay, all right, you're right. Thank you very much.
So with that, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing,
Nobody has signed in yet.
and we will close the public hearing, and yes, we'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I move that we adopt the specific use permit request as recommended by the P and Z Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 7, consider and take appropriate action on amendment to the agreement for the new lift station and extension of water, wastewater offsite and onsite mains to serve existing subdivision with Canyon Capital Group, LLC. Dustin.
Yes, sir. So in November of 2024, this body authorized an agreement with Canyon Capital Group to install the necessary infrastructure improvements to serve the Spring Canyon subdivision. Specifically, that original agreement detailed the locations and the required quantities of the infrastructure improvements. So the original agreement intended that the sewer infrastructure be constructed along Spring Canyon Parkway and then turning north and continuing along 2590. However, due to some pretty significant issues with construction of the sewer line at the necessary depths along 2590 to service all of the proposed lots in Spring Canyon Unit Number 4, it was determined that another route should be explored. So this particular agenda item is for a proposed amendment that will alter the original route and allow for construction of the sewer main to service those additional development in Spring Canyon. So the revised route is outlined in Exhibit A on the amendment and proceeds along Spring Canyon Parkway and turns north at Ranger Drive. And so you guys should have a copy of that amendment at your locations there.
This document packet, this one.
And within that is a new exhibit in the back of that, and you can see on that exhibit where we are removing the route that turned north along 2590. I believe that one is in orange, and then the alternate route is in pink or purple. However you look at that, it proceeds north along Ranger Drive. Let everybody get to that. Also delineated in that exhibit that you guys do have in front of you, and it's highlighted in red, is sewer infrastructure that is necessary and needed to service the northmost commercial lots that have frontage to FM 2590. And so you can see that in red. So this amendment is inclusive of reimbursement of actual construction costs incurred by the developer at the locations denoted in red on that exhibit. The amendment will also necessitate corresponding change order to the existing construction contract with Wampler Construction for the alternate route that does turn north and proceeds up through Ranger Drive. So the increased costs associated with this, with the change order, the increased cost with that is approximately $285,350. And then the estimated reimbursement request for the construction of the sewer line marked in red is approximately $125,000. And I can answer any questions you guys might have. So the developer is here and can also answer questions if you have questions of them.
I want to make sure, does this change y'all's plan at all as far as capacity of how many houses y'all plan to put in, or anything with the development at all?
I don't think this changes anything, Cody. I think it's right on track where we were shooting for the first time. We're just taking a different route to get there.
Okay.
So, yeah. If there's any other questions, we got to answer them. Otherwise, we just appreciate a vote to move forward with this. And sometime in the next month, we hope to have all the construction plans back to the city. And then with approval, then we'll get started on phase 4 as soon as possible.
Which will also include the bridge.
That's correct. So the bridge will be going at the same time as phase 4.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, you've already also signed in with your.
No, I signed in really more as questions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them. You know, we had good discussion with Joe and Dustin. Everything went well. I think we've got a good plan in place now.
I'll make a motion, we adopt the amendment to the extension agreement with Canaan Capital Group LLC to alter the location of the sanitary sewer infrastructure.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sticking around, Mayor. I'm hoping to up my
All right,
batting
one
average
more
for the new year.
round. Item number 8, consider and take appropriate action on a participation agreement between City of Canyon, owner Chris and Don Carl Tardy Jr., and tenant Seven Brew Enterprises for the relocation of water infrastructure associated with vacation of an alley right-of-way located at 208 23rd Street.
Yes, sir. So exactly what you said, Seven Career Enterprises is proposing to develop property located at 208 23rd Street for Seven Brew Coffee Shop. As this property was being planned for development, the owners, Chris and DC Tardy, asked to have the alley located at this address vacated. So as you guys, I'm sure remember, on October 7th City Commission meeting, this body took action to vacate the alley. And as part of that approval process required that the vacation would be dependent upon the relocation of the water line that was located in that alley. So the property is actively going through the required plating process to combine all or parts of 5 lots into one, including that vacated alley. So to fulfill the obligation of water infrastructure relocation, the owner and the tenant have agreed to enter into a participation agreement that will allow the city, operating through our chosen contractor, to relocate the water line and move that from the existing alley to the west end of that property that is currently being platted as a 15-foot public utility easement. So while the city will be conducting the relocation of the on-site portion of the water infrastructure, the associated costs for the on-site portion will be paid for by the tenant as outlined in that agreement that you guys have in front of you right there. So the process, why we were doing it this way, this process is being utilized really as a convenience for the owner and for the tenant, as it's a little quicker, simpler process than having the owner submit construction plans for water infrastructure and submit the necessary requisite surety to carry out that construction. So you guys have that amendment or that agreement in front of you. We did go out and get 3 quotes to see what this would cost. The quotes range from $23,525 on the high end to $10,800 on the low end. That's just for the on-site piece of water relocation. I can answer any questions that you may have.
To adopt participation agreement with Chris and DC Tardy and Seven Crew Enterprises for relocation of water infrastructure.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Dustin. Okay, item number 9.
It's the Dustin.
Consider and take appropriate action on a professional services agreement with Deckard Corporation for services associated with identification, compliance monitoring, and rental activity to the short-term rental program.
Yes, sir. I'm back on deck. So the City of Canyon short-term rental program is supported and tracked through a software program called LocalGov. In August of 2023, the City of Canyon entered into an agreement with Azavar Corporation to implement and provide the programming services necessary to manage and support LocalGov. So what LocalGov does is for the short-term rentals that are in our community, it provides advantages such as automatic calculation of taxes and fees owed. It provides secure processing and multiple payment options for the STRs. On the city staff side, the LocalGov software provides tremendous tracking ability, registration, and permitting abilities. Currently, Azavar has a subcontract that provides the ability to scrape the internet and identify STRs in the Canyon community that may not already be registered with the community. So they have a program or algorithm or however that works that actually scrapes it. And if there's one that they identify that's not registered, they'll notify us of that. So while this piece of it is really an important component of local gov system, Azavar has asked the subcontractor to contract directly with the municipalities so that they're better able to service the unique needs of each individual municipality. So this particular agenda item is to consider a contract with Deckard Corporation to provide the ability to identify STRs that have not already registered or been identified. So the attached agreement that you guys have in front of you will not increase the total cost of the software or programming to serve the STR program in the city of Canyon. As these costs were in the original Azavar agreement, they'll no longer be included in that Azavar agreement. So total contract costs associated with Deckard contract is $2,380, and that will be deducted from the Azavar agreement. I'm happy to answer any questions on this.
Apparently you explained very well there, Dustin.
I'll try.
It's a great system. It's worked really well for us. We don't really have a choice.
You really helped bring it online, didn't you?
Yes.
You used to track that down.
Yes, I used to drive around. They don't, when they separated, it created a need for us to go contract with these others. And that part of that was because we had questions along the way. Why do we have to do this, or why is this? And we were going through local gov to get to Deckard. And now we can just talk to Deckard. We think it's a good thing for us.
I move that.
A second.
Have a motion second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
I'm done, Mayor. All right, thank you.
Just, sure.
Yeah, whoever, whichever one, they both went. So
Give
you
that
just
one
talk
up.
to one.
Put him in there.
He's in.
All right, item number 10, consider and take appropriate action on resolution number 01-2026, a resolution by the City Commission of the City of Canyon, Randall County, Texas, accepting a House Bill 2604 grant from the Texas A&M Forest Service for the purchase of rescue equipment for the Canyon Fire Department and authorizing the fire chief to represent the city in all matters pertaining to the administration of the grant. Chief?
Commissioners. The fire department's been offered a $25,000 equipment grant from the Texas A&M Forest Service. This is through their Assistance to Rural Firefighting Program. The grant is a 95% grant match, 5% city match on this. We're seeking approval to accept this grant. If it is approved, we'll be utilizing it to purchase hydraulic rescue equipment for our new pumper that's on order. The cost of the equipment is right at $25,000, so the grant will cover $23,750 on it. City will have to cover $1,250, and we do have the funds in our budget to cover that.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, item number 11, to consider and take appropriate action on resolution number 02-2026, a resolution by the City of Canyon, Texas, responding to the application of West Texas Gas Utility LLC to raise rates under the Gas Reliability Infrastructure Program, suspending the effective date of this rate increase for 45 days, authorizing the city's participation in a coalition of cities known as the Alliance of West Texas Gas Company Municipalities, requiring the reimbursement of costs, determining that the meeting at which the resolution was adopted complied with the Texas Open Meetings Act, making such other findings and provisions related to the subject and declaring an effective date. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a mini rate case by one of our gas companies. And this came in late October. And this suspension for those rate increases is to suspend while giving our rate counsel, our legal rate counsel, additional time to look at those expenses to make sure they're justified on their means and work through those. It doesn't go quite into the full rate case like we do with the electrical with SPS. But on this, us and our counterpart cities have been asked by our legal counsel to suspend this for 45 days. And that's what we're doing. You can see the rate increases on the second page of the memo, what those are going to look like. I believe this is West Texas Gas. We are getting our two current major gas providers. Our Atmos still is the number one, but most of the new development is West Texas Gas or One Gas. And so they are continuing to increase their number of accounts in our region, in our town, and outside of our town. So if there's no other questions, and I could get a lot more boring on how these things are done, recommend passing of resolution 2-2026.
I move we approve.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes. All right. With that, that takes us to the item that of interest for today. Item number 12, discussion regarding Panhandle Plains Historical Museum. I want to thank everyone for being here. This obviously is an item that is of great interest to, I think, all of us in the community. And we take a lot of pride in Panhandle Plains Historical Museum. And I think it's of great value to not just us, but those in the Panhandle. You know, I've loved over time seeing all the school buses out front and all the kids throughout Panhandle cities that come and go through that museum. You know, my own grandkids, you know, coming into town, that's one of the things they request is go to the museum, and weren't able to this summer. You know, and I think we all take a personal piece of it too. You know, I absolutely love the bison exhibit in there and all the things that the Indians made from bison products. And so, you know, I think all of us could go on and on, but that's why we want to discuss this today. Bottom line, thank you all for being here. I do want to thank Representative Smithy for being here as well, and Dr. Walter Wendler. Both of them, I think, will speak here in just a little bit. And then also, these meetings are streamed now, and the Panhandle Plains Historical Society, their board, is actually watching, listening via the streaming today. With that too, Suzanne Wheeler, who is the president-elect, wanted to let you all know that they are planning on a town hall meeting in February as well. So, well, with that, it's on the agenda because the city of Kenyon wanted to take a look, and we'd already been discussing, but more formally discuss what are the things that the city can do. You know, we aren't the owners. Joe will talk about that a little bit more, but, you know, we definitely have a vested interest in what can we do as the city of Kenyon. So with that, Joe, I'll let you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll let Mr. Burns start us on this discussion, and he's going to go over some of our financial investments with the museum. And so, John, if you'll start.
Okay.
And there's a handout.
I think there was a handout. I think most everybody received the handout. Hopefully you got that.
Commission, you all have a handout on this.
Yes, you all have that, and then there was a second handout there that talked about hotel tax. So what I'm going to do is briefly run through some of that. This is the support that the city has provided the museum over the last 10 years. So, the direct funding that we provide to both the university and to the museum is from the hotel tax. That's one method. And then the museum has also received funding through the CEDC, Economic Development. They've also funded that. As far as the museum itself, from 20, you can see there from 2015 to 2025, the hotel tax that they have received has been $469,000. That's an average about $45,000 to $55,000 a year that they receive. And I'll talk a little bit in a moment about why they get that and what they can use, specifically what they can use that for. And then you can also see that the CEDC has been able to fund various projects since 2015 at the museum for a total of $436,000. So the city has certainly been funding part of the program and the things going on at the museum. So how can we use hotel tax? The one handout there talked a little bit about hotel tax and what that is. That's a 7% that our guests, when they come and stay in our hotels, pay. Just like when you go to San Antonio or a big city, you pay 7% plus 9% plus 2%. You know, they've got all kinds of extra things charged there. Here, we have a 7% local hotel tax. And that's what Dustin was just talking about, that the firm Local Gov helps us find those amounts and helps us work through that. So that is, in order for us to provide them with those hotel funds, they have to pass what we call a two-part test. The state comptroller has set up a test, and this is what they have to do. Number one, put heads in beds. Whoever receives that has to put heads into the beds. They have to be the ones that are earning that hotel tax. Because if your group puts heads in the beds, then you're bringing in money for the local hotel tax. So we support you by helping fund you in various ways. The second test that they have to pass is that they have to fit into one of 9 categories, and I'll briefly run through those categories. Number 1, they have to be a convention or visitor center. Number 2, it can provide the funding for convention registration. When you go to conferences in Dallas and different places, those aren't people from your conference that are doing that registration. That's typically someone that's been paid to do that, and the hotel venue tax would probably be paying for that. Advertising the city, billboards up saying, come to Canyon, stay in Canyon. Those things drive tourists. Number 4, promotion of the arts. Number 5, historical restoration and preservation. Number 6, sporting events, which bring in folks from outside your county, outside a 90-mile radius. You have to be able to prove that it's people that are staying. I can't just say I give it to the local baseball league when all those people live in town, because they're not doing what? They're not putting heads in beds. Number 7, enhancing or upgrading existing sporting facilities. Again, that's linked to those big sports complexes that you see around the state, including NFL football stadium. Tourist transportation systems. You can provide a bus system for those tourists. Cities that have a lot of tourism there might have a bus system that moves those people around. You may have participated in those somewhere. Number 9, signage directing the public to sites and attractions that are visited frequently by hotel guests in the city. So you could put up signage. This is where the museum is. This is where this is. This is where these things are, to direct your traffic, to get, again, not local people, but those people that need those directions, the people that are staying in your hotels that are putting heads in your beds. So those are the 2 tests, heads in beds, and then meet one of those criteria. So with the museum, we've been able to fund them, those funds each year, because we reimburse them for their advertising. They advertise nationally. Let's say they advertise in Texas Monthly. If you get Texas Monthly, you'll see an ad. You would have seen an ad in there through the years for the Panhandle Plains Historical Museum. So once they've placed that ad, they pay for that ad, then they send the city, specifically me, right now, a bill for that, an invoice where they've paid that, and then we're able to reimburse them for those costs. We do that for Texas Musical. We do that for the museum. We do some of that for the chamber. We do that for various events that come to town. This summer we had a couple of conventions that came to town. We were able to fund them for some of their events because they were putting heads in beds, and they fit those tourist categories. So that's how we use the local hotel tax. The key to all of that is it puts heads in beds. Now the CEDC there, you can see on there at the top of that handout, it breaks down that we have a 6.25 state sales tax. 1.5% of that goes to the city and 1/2 of that goes to the EDC. Is that correct, Joe?
Round out 8.25.
Okay. Approximately goes to the EDC. EDC's job is to bring economic development to our city. They're the folks that brought us Lone Star Dairies. They're the folks that have brought us various businesses are the folks that help downtown businesses redo their front, the facade grant, various things like that. They also are here to help the city in general. So they have supported, as you can see, the museum by sponsoring these different events, by providing funding along the way. As late as 2021, $75,000 to the STEAM Lab, and various events that have occurred. You probably have, some of you might have in 2018 gone to the pop culture exhibit, which was in the museum. That was one that everybody really got a lot of attention. It was really an interesting because it was about pop culture. Well, EDC helped sponsor that for $15,000. So they have been involved in sponsoring of those events. So those are the ways that the city in general has been able to help support for the past 10 years and before that, the museum specifically. And then we have other great relationships with the university where we do mutual projects such as the lighting on the water tower that we did for holiday season and also for WT, a really neat thing we just got started this year. The fact that we took on Dr. Long, the Spur, we took on Russell Long Boulevard, and that is a great project. With us, we were able to accept that. We'll be maintaining that and taking care of that because that is something that a joint venture between WT and us. And there are other projects along the way that we do as joint ventures. Those are not through these hotel taxes. That's a different avenue of
General
funding.
fund. Yep.
Joe, does that kind of cover what you wanted me to?
I think so.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Mayor, you good? Go ahead. Thanks for everybody for being here today. Mr. Representative Smithy, it's good to see you. Dr. Willer, you as well. Thank you for being here. John, thank you again for all your help on our recent Canyonville. Appreciate all you did. I want to thank all of our concerned citizens today and visitors who were here this evening to share their comments. The commission's here to listen. We're here to hear those comments. Before I get into some of the meat and potatoes on some of the stuff John started, just to clarify some of the statements that our mayor has made, the City of Canyon organization does not have a formal legal partnership with either the museum or the society. There is no formal legal relationship there. However, as the mayor indicated, the city is a vested stakeholder and collaborative partner with them. As John mentioned, local tax funds have historically supported the museum and some of the efforts that he has mentioned, as well as the university. A lot of that's been advertising. Additionally, it's also worth noting that the museum is nearly as old as the city of Canyon itself, dating back to when we were incorporated as a community. Over the past 18 to 24 months, both WTMU and the society have graciously allowed the city, mayor specifically a lot of it, to participate as a collaborative partner on the ongoing issues and discussions. The mayor has met countless times, more than he can probably remember, with Dr. Windler and WT, as well as Representative Smithy, Mark Bivens, as well as members of the society. He has met with them as well as I throughout the last 18 to 24 months in these dialogues. The city has been a strong advocate for the museum and an advocate for the university as a whole. I want to personally, as the manager, commend Mayor Henders for his leadership and passion on this issue. He has put a lot of time and effort that has not been seen publicly, and he has put a lot of time into these efforts. The purpose for tonight's discussion is here to directly hear from the public and have the opportunity for us to speak to the commission as a whole on this matter in a public forum. What I am about to go into is some of the financial tools and resources, some of what John has just mentioned, to provide the commission as a whole on several financial items that they could use if they so choose into working on some of this. None of that is advocating for any of these specific course of action and what has been discussed. Rather, it's just outlining options for consideration that the commission could take with it to determine. Our city attorney has also worked with me on these. There's a lot of legal on this that are very gray and deep deep holes on these considerations. In the first part of this, I will mention, when we were looking at financial options, Mr. Burns and I, while we were working on applying for funds for the city bond election, we found, working with Ronnie Jackson's staff, a grant, the same that WT filed for. WT was awarded 2 grants, and so was the city, through USDA and the ag appropriations. In that same breath of discussion with Ronnie Jackson's staff, they had asked the Library of Congress, they have a research outfit. I have provided that document to the commission here. It's very lengthy, but it's right here outlined. There are just a number of grants, foundations, and all sorts of avenues right there. Most of that's capital related. And so that came in late September to Mr. Burns and I in those dialogues. So they had someone actually go through and look at a bunch of those. Those are here, up here. We have not talked to WT about those or the society. Those have just been referenced as possibility. There's 2, 3, 4, 5 pages just on private foundations for arts and culture. So lots there. Not everything is applicable as apples to apples. Not everything can be done in that way. And so we were able to get that. I do think some capital projects could be eligible under the same USDA grant that I just mentioned as well. That could also go into this. Now, the biggest topic to discuss is some of the local funding sources, and that's what Mr. Burns is sitting on. It does appear that there is lawfulness to use the general fund. As a city, the general fund, we could also call it the government fund. That's where we put property taxes, sales tax. We have our solid waste revenue. That's where we do police, fire. It does appear that to be a lawful financing aspect. So obviously that fund is criticized more than any other fund because it is tax-based. But it does seem that that would be a lawful avenue to do funding. Now, is that to be considered? That is the commission's choice, but it does appear to be lawful. Under the hotel occupancy tax, there are specific statutory limitations, as John mentioned, and I will go into a deeper hole in that in a minute. But that one will be the large share I'll talk about tonight. In addition to some of that, from more of a capital base, the CEDC, under our type, which is, I believe, 4B, we are able to help with those types of projects as well. And so we're able to put forth money in the EDC, Commissioner Cramner serves on that, and so does our mayor serves on that board, as well as the 5 other individuals. They earn about $1 million a year. That's what we're getting for our 0.25%. So about $1 million, a little bit over $1 million a year. And they have funded certain projects, as was mentioned prior. But going back to the hotel motel tax considerations, hardest part, and Dr. Wendler has mentioned a lot, is the ongoing maintenance. The ongoing maintenance is a hard part. And so the hotel motel tax wasn't really made to do ongoing maintenance. And so they're really focused on capital and things of that nature. And so unless you're doing advertising. But in an ongoing maintenance, there's only really a few categories that could fit under. And those 2 categories would be either a convention center or basically a visitor center, visiting information. Those are really only 2 items under that 9 consideration that could have an impact on ongoing yearly maintenance and things of that nature versus just, hey, here's a capital for a one and done type of deal. And so that one I will get back to here in a minute. In terms of one type of capital outlay projects, I do believe on building renovations, looking enough in the research that historic renovation is one of that John mentioned earlier. I do think that would be eligible under the hotel motel fund at this point. Obviously, I have to preface this for our city attorney that we would have to do more legal work on this, but a lot. We got to keep you going. But that could be used to help on the building side through the hotel motel tax. A lot of these are subject to strong legal reviews and required steps, as I just mentioned to Chuck, our city attorney. But however, the only way to designate, you would have to do an ongoing revenue would be to designate the museum as either a convention center or a visitor center. Is that doable? I believe it could be doable with the right way. But there are factors at play that have to be played out with West Texas A&M, society, and the city. There's a lot of moving parts in that. But it is possible that could be an eligibility under the right legal review steps, that it could fall under that. with guidance from the state of Texas and the A&M system. There is possibility under that, but it is not certain. Those typically are limited to those specific spaces. And so you couldn't go do for the whole museum. It would be limited to certain spaces where conventions are held and associated areas, hallways, entrances into that space, the bathrooms. So that's really what the research shows, is it's focused on those specific spaces, maintenance of those, and upkeep of those. In addition to that, there is a possibility, if that route was sought and able to obtain, there is a 2% capacity that you could add on to the hotel motel tax, and it's called the venue tax. Now, some of you guys may or may not be aware, but I did spend a short stint in Borger. When we were in Borger, we did take action to do a venue tax for the dome. And so what that did is, John mentioned we have a 7% on the cap. That is the statutory legal cap. In order to go above that 2%, it has to be typically for convention center, can be for sports facility, things of that nature. That does require a public election. And so that would be a public election. That's what we had to do over there in Border to go to that. That 2% just goes on the hotel motel tax. So that doesn't have any implications into property or sales tax or any other tax. It only goes on to those folks that are staying at our hotel. So instead of them paying 7%, they would pay for 9%. But that would have to be a public referendum to the people. I would anticipate, based on what we're bringing in annually on hotel motel, John, around 400.
Yes, I'm looking at it right. They'd bring in about 9,000.
Yeah, so probably 75,000. It'd probably be 7,500, 25,000 annually, and it has to go to that purpose. So if it was for a convention center, it'd have to go to that purpose. So those are some of the legal holes that we've looked at. Some of the legal dives we dove into. As I mentioned, this is for informational purposes for the commission to consider in discussions. As I mentioned, Chuck and I would have to do a lot more work. But if you should choose to explore them, we're definitely here to help any way we can. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. With that, I don't know if there's thoughts from other members of the commission, and I think we would like to have some consensus on, we're good moving forward, and at least, maybe studying further, but even that, we have interest in some of these areas. And so whether that is the hotel motel tax or, obviously as part of the EDC, I think we could take a look there. Probably that'd be more capital improvement related and some dollars there. And then, I'm not sure how soon we would look at putting something on the ballot, but that's another piece too. So I guess I'd be interested to hear, any discussion from the commission standpoint, or, what you think as far as moving forward. So
I'd like to hear from the people,
That's what I was
honestly.
thinking too.
I'd like to hear from the people first. And then we have a discussion
okay.
after that.
You know what? Let's do that. We can circle back around to that. And yes. We will have Representative Smithy and Dr. Wendler speak first. To start with, I would like to throw out, I think the importance of the museum to us. I really appreciate the relationship I have with both of these men, and to be able to be in conversations and meetings. Didn't have to be included in some of those, but really had some good discussions, and also members of the Panhandle Plains Historical Society. Be able to pick up and bounce things off and think things through too. I really appreciate efforts of Dr. Wendler to go in and has had visions of the new museum or new structures with the museum. There's a big dollar items, and he even took it and had a one-on-one meeting with the lieutenant governor and didn't go anywhere. And so bottom line, I think a lot of those discussions on those type of dollar items have not gone anywhere. And I believe right now, we're to the point that time is of the essence. With recent events, with that collection being moved and asked to be moved to another location. I know, visiting with folks with Panhandle Plains Historical Society, they're looking at every alternative, both temporary but also long-term too. And so, you know, the ownership is two pieces. The university owns the real estate, the building, but the collection is owned by the Panhandle Plains Historical Society. So, you know, bottom line is we've got to have both, and we've got to have both and figure out something in Canyon. We've got to have everybody at the table working together, I believe, to figure out a solution, because it's got to be figured out, in my eyes, very quickly, because otherwise, if the Panhandle Plains Historical Society finds another home for that collection, that building is just a vacant building. So I think time is of the essence. And I've had a chance to visit with all the parties on. Somebody threw out the idea, okay, we've got to reduce that operating budget, and to do that, reduce the size of the building, and reduce the scope of the project and all the enhancements that we have to do to the building. What if we raise, and I've presented this to even Dr. Windler too, you know, what if we raise the old library, that portion of it, maybe that reduces it by a third or so, something like that. It would have to have an exterior wall built around the outside. But in doing that, there's not as much fire suppression. And, you know, the other items I think that have to happen, definitely fire suppression in the rest of the building. Pioneer Hall has it right now, but the rest of the building is going to have that. One of the huge items was the amount of combustibles. I mean, there's more clothing back in that old library right now. It's just packed. And, you know, what if that caught fire and it doesn't have fire suppression? So there are legitimate issues that have got to be addressed. But the fire suppression, I think, removable of those flammables, and then there are electrical issues that have to be taken care of too. I think probably a good part of those are in that old building and all too, at least a part of them are. So, you know, I guess the question and what's thrown out, can we get to a smaller dollar number? We've come to a dead end with the A&M system and funds there. I think there's been nothing forthcoming there. So I think if we're going to keep the museum in the community, we've got to work hard with some private funds. Representative Smithy can talk some more. I think he had probably ability to raise or come to the table early on through the summer and all with $5 million, but you know, that was if that would take care of enough things to keep the museum open. But I think some of those funds are still there, so he may speak to some of that as well. But bottom line is, I think to get there, it's going to take both what we can get from some of those state funds that we can get help with there, but then it's also going to take private money, and you know, that's still substantial private money. If we're talking a total of 20 or 30 million, and Dr. Windler may think that's on the low side, but I like to think maybe, you know, we come at it from different views, from a safety engineer or from a banker and business person. How do we get it done? I like to think if we work with the state fire marshal and take care of, address major issues, that, you know, they would work with us and we can get it done. But we are going to have to jump in the middle of it and get some major folks to help us with some funds to get that done. Because if we don't have a plan and say, this is the hard plan, Panhandle Plains Historical Society, you know, we've got a place for you, we want you here. I think that horse is out of the barn, and we won't have a museum here. So I think it's all of us working together at the table to get that done. You know, Dr. Windler will speak some more too, may have some other thoughts. And, you know, that is just one idea. It wasn't my idea that I came up with. I think maybe some folks more associated with the museum, and Joe had related that thought on to me and all too. But I like that plan, coming up with a dollar number that maybe we can figure out how to get there with some private funds and all too, because the A&M funds doesn't look like to me are coming. So I should have been here already. you know, bottom line, I think that's where we need to go. And, you know, with that, I appreciate the relationships here, being able to be a part of the discussion. And it's going to take everybody working at it at the table, I think, to work to get us there and keep the museum in Canyon. So, but with that,
Gary, I thought, because I guess, and when Dr. Windler talks, he can probably clear up, because I guess I need to understand, is the building even something we have an option to, or did the A&M system already make a decision the building's off the table? So I guess that's the one to say, because my understanding, it was completely off the table from this point forward. So maybe Dr. Windler can, I just need to understand that part as well.
I'll
And he
let
can
you
speak to
clarify
that.
further. Correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but yes, it is a university-owned building. I think Dr. Windler would like to see that as a museum too. I mean, that is the historical, you know, that nearly 100-year-old building in Pioneer Hall has bug-beat murals on the inside of it. And you know, if we can figure out a way, you know, I think university would be open to, but it is their building. I mean, they're going to make the calls on how we do it. Or how it's done. I mean, I've got different ideas of how maybe that could be done too, but it is their building. Representative Smithy did introduce a bill that would actually have Texas Historical Commission take control of the building and operations too, and he can speak a little bit more to that. So I think that still is a possibility. If the Texas A&M system is not funding anything into that building, I think that's still a possibility out there too. So for us to look at, and it's probably time for me to be quiet and let Dr. Windler and Representative Smithy speak. But you know, I think we've got some possibilities out there. But again, I think time is of the essence, and we've got to figure out something pretty quick, including how it's funded. So. Dr. Windler, you going to take the lead here?
Yeah. Just voted by John to be first.
You're good at that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the opportunity. And let me just say, I think people know this, but I'm very proud. I've been in a number of university towns, large and small, that have a town-gown relationship that makes both the community stronger and the university stronger. I think we have one of those. Largely, it's the leadership of Mayor Hinders and all of you who invest the amounts of money that are here. In some ways, are immaterial. It's the emotional support that the university has from
young representatives out in the hallway. Is there any way we could come in here?
Sorry.
Can you speak up?
Joe, you're going to be in violation of the fire code. I'm telling you.
Can't block the door.
Can't help myself.
If it's PHS.
I would think that someone in the crowd might give up their seat simply because that's a group that you want to hear this. I'm just suggesting that.
And I think it's just a handful, so appreciate you all.
Yeah, thank you.
We don't need everybody.
Back, I promise not to keep it. Out there talking like.
They could probably come in and stand.
There's some seats over here, back here.
They're all around.
I'm gonna come in if you're gonna come.
Mama Hen voice.
Is there anybody else coming in?
We want to invite some of the folks back in,
Well,
they can run everybody off. So.
sorry for the interruption, Dr. Weaver.
That's all right, that's all right. I was drafted as an usher.
Oh, it's going.
You ready? Okay. Okay, well, I just wanted to say, just as to introduce, and I'll be very brief, but I did want to say that I appreciate the working relationship, and as Mayor Henders has indicated, and City Manager Price, this thing has a lot of moving parts. I mean, a lot of moving parts, and it's very complicated, and it's got a long history. And one thing I do want to say to make sure people are clear on this, because it's been, social media is alive with a lot of commentary and so on and so forth. And some of it is probably accurate, some of it not. But I personally, and Gary, you just said this, I have not given up on finding a workable solution where the museum stays just where it is and we find the resources. We have two resource problems. They've been mentioned. One is the capital problem that we need to find to address the findings of the state fire marshal. And the state fire marshal has requested that we vacate the building, period. And we negotiated with them to allow the staff to remain in the building. They believe the building is dangerous. We need a source of funds to take care of those physical facilities. A durable source of funds. Could be debt service, could be a number of things, and we can work on that. And then the other are the operational costs that you will have talked about. Currently, we invest about just under $100,000 a month in the building to turn on the lights, to take care of the janitorial, to do very modest maintenance. There's a lot of serious maintenance that needs to be done that's been neglected for years because we don't have the resources. And that we don't have a funding stream for that operations funding to pay for the lights, pay for the, we don't have it. Because it's not what's called an education and general building. There are a few spaces within it. It's the Harrington Lecture Hall and a couple of other small spaces. But of the 217,000 square feet in that building, well less than 10,000 are E&G facilities that we can get state funding for. This is a little bit like what City Manager Price talked about if the building was dedicated to convention. Yeah, and was a welcome center or some sort of an event center. A portion of that could be identified and used that way and funded that way. We have a very small portion. It's a very, very modest portion of the whole building. So the building is not funded by the state of Texas, which makes it very difficult for us. Every other building on the campus is either an E&G building, an education or general building where our faculty teach and our students attend classes and so on, or it's an auxiliary building for which we charge fees, dormitories, athletics venues, and so on and so forth. This one doesn't, it's neither fish nor fowl. So it's in between and therefore has fallen through the cracks for a long, long time. And in some ways, that is why the state of repair of the building is so, it's dreadful. Actually, it's dreadful. And the building is dangerous. The fire marshal does not believe it to be safe. She said that, I want to read that from the letter because it's not a decision that I made, and I'm not running from the responsibility. I run at it. I never run away from it. But this is what the fire marshal said. It's in a long paragraph, but basically, therefore, the state fire marshal also requests that the building remain closed to the public until the violations are resolved or an approved plan of action is in place. And that's what we're about right now, is trying to develop an approved plan of action. That letter was, it's been a while now, it's been months, and we've been working on plans, but we haven't got one that makes any sense, that we can make financial sense out of. Representative Smithy has been very helpful to this and in working with ideas for us and so on. But I think the burden of what it costs to upgrade that building and address the fire, the safety concerns, the concerns to health, safety, and welfare are remarkable and beyond most people's imagination. It's just very, very expensive and gets more and more so. And some of the buildings, as the mayor correctly referenced, the old library has got so many fundamental problems in the way it's made and the load-bearing stacks and so on and so forth with combustible material under the bottom of it. The code says, so the fire chief in here before, but the code says, I think, that you can't have combustible material within 2 feet of the surface above. Well, ours is right up to the ceiling because we just don't have enough space. So there are a lot of problems, but my goal is to make sure the building is safe for the general public, for our students, for our faculty and staff, for everyone that uses the building, and it's not safe now. And we need to figure that out. The burden that we now, which is $99,000 and change, I've given to Gretchen some details on this that you are free to have. It's all available online too. And I'll say this, I think people are probably aware of it, but there's a website that addresses all of the actions that have been taken over the last 10 years to try to address these issues. And every one of them is a brick wall, has been a brick wall. But that set of actions also has in it the accounting of the funds that we use to try to keep the building open. And it's $100,000 a month is what it costs. And that seems high, but these are the standards that we're held to by the Texas A&M University system and the state of Texas, and we can't ignore them. So it's a very, it's complicated. A lot of moving parts, but I do want to mention this website, and I think some of you have been there, but if you go to wtamu.edu/PPHM timeline, that timeline will come up. There's 370 pages of information about this thing. There's plans, there's proposals, there's cost estimates. In other words, and I think everybody knows this. Everybody's very gracious about all this, and many people are deeply concerned. Gary, you're one of them, and I get it. But the bottom line is we have got to find a path out of this, and we haven't been able to do it yet. And I'm not giving up on it. And I'm going to say this, that I think that museum, if those funding streams are identified, that museum belongs on the campus. A lot of people, and Gary was in a public meeting with me not long ago with PPHS where somebody opined that they thought the museum should be moved to Amarillo, and there's quite a few people that feel that way. I don't. Myself, I think the museum should be right here and it should be on a campus of West Texas A&M University, but we need to find resources to properly maintain it and make it safe for use, which it is not now. That's not my determination. That's the determination of the state fire marshal. I just read it to you. You have a copy of the letter from the fire marshal's office. It says it's unsafe. So just as the society and the university have not separated ways on this, I think we're all equally frustrated because of the complexity of the issue. And there are 2 other museums that are similar to this one, neither one of them like them. This is the most robust history museum in the state of Texas. And there are 2 other campus museums in the state that suffer the same challenges that we suffer, but the museums are minuscule compared to PPHM. One of them is the Stonefort Museum, at Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches, and the other one is the Ranching Heritage Museum at Texas Tech University. They're both good museums, but the Stone Fort is, they're going through motions right now very similar to ours, and theirs is a much smaller challenge than ours is. We have got a major challenge here. And I think it's going to take some innovative leadership from appointed officials like me, elected officials like all of you, and our state leadership. I think the folks at the A&M system, the chancellor, both Chancellor Sharp and now, Chancellor Hager are very interested in trying to work through something like this, but we have to have the resources and figure out a way to do that. We can't have a building that's dangerous. We have other buildings. We're just finished now renovations of an E&G building on the campus, which the state has provided funds for, the old education building, now the Geneva Schaefer Education Building. And the work is beautiful, and it's going to be a beautiful facility. But we spent $45 million on that. And it's cost, I told Gary recently, it was $1,000 a square foot to get that updated. It's just very expensive. But at any rate, I'd be happy to, I don't know what the format is, but I'd be happy to take questions from in front of me or from behind me. Whatever you all want to do is I'm fine with.
I'm good with that. I don't know. Why don't we have Representative Smithy speak, and then typically we do have those that come up to speak just to address the commission. I don't know. I may have a little bit of latitude there to allow some discussion.
As long as people can keep it respectful and the tone respectful, we would be okay. And not attacking each other, talking to each other within the audience. It would be directed at you or Dr. Wendler only.
Okay, thank you. Smithy?
Well, thank you all for doing this, for having this discussion today. To me, my involvement in this is I'm not a decision maker. I'm just trying to help, okay? And basically the help that I'm trying to provide is to find money for any solution that the decision makers come up with. And so let me just give you a brief history of how we got to where we are, and then I'll tell you about some of the things we've been doing. But about 30 years, I've been in the legislature 40 years. I'm not going to be there next session. I'm not running again. So somebody else is going to have to get this money a year from now. But I do think I can help in laying the groundwork to get it done. And I'll talk about that more in just a second. But about 30 years ago, the smaller colleges in the state of Texas, one of which was West Texas State at the time, we're a little over 30 years ago, were concerned because they were getting the shortchanged on appropriations. And it was being done primarily through special items in the budget for these universities. And A&M and Texas, when I say A&M, I'm talking about College Station and UT Austin, they had the political clout to be able to come into the legislature and get these special items. And so the smaller colleges were being shortchanged. So we made a decision in the legislature at that time to go to a new system of funding education that was primarily formula-based, and it relied on enrollment growth, things of that nature, square footage that was used for educational systems, and basically educational programs. And so basically the special item became pretty much a dinosaur, a thing of the past. And that's how museums were always funded. And as a result of that, the museums on college campuses, as Dr. Wendler just said, have become very rare. There's just three left, and none that are on the magnitude of the Panhandle Plains Museum. So now we have formula funding, which doesn't provide any extra money for a museum. So any support from the museum basically has to come out of, we've got a small special item, I think, don't we, for the museum?
$250,000,
Yeah,
down
yeah.
from 400,000 15 years ago.
And you've got a few of those in the budget. So the A&M system, we go through the A&M system for everything that comes to West Texas A&M. We have to get them behind the program, and then they have to advocate for it in the legislature. They've got a political issue because they have, how many institutions? They have about 9 now, or 12 institutions. And so Tarleton and Commerce will look at the WT budget and say, well, they're getting this, so why aren't we getting something comparable? So that they have to kind of keep the request even. So it is very difficult to fund a museum through a university is basically the bottom line. About this time 2 years ago, I know this issue was still was starting to heat up about what we were going to do with the museum. And the decision was made at the system level, really, to try to ask for funding for a new building. And it was going to require a lot of money. I think it was about a $250 million price tag. And, when the A&M individual, Dr. Windler and some of the other A&M people went down there to present that idea, it just didn't go anywhere. $250 million was just too much. That was a non-starter. And so, and particularly with the relatively small numbers of attendance that we have at the museum, that museum is really underutilized and underattended for what is available there. We need to get more people into the museum, but the numbers are just not what they should be. They just pale in comparison to places like the Alamo, things like that. Lieutenant Governor told several of us, he said, I don't think we could justify spending that much money on the Alamo if it was falling down. And so that is what is working against us. Now, the A&M system and the Historical Commission got together and talked about maybe putting the museum under the umbrella of the Historical Commission, with the idea that it would be easier and more practical and would fit appropriations better for the Historical Commission to be able to come in and ask for the money. I don't know what it's going to cost to get the museum back open. I think as several speakers have indicated, you're going to have to probably demolish the library portion of it. Pioneer Hall, from what Dr. Windler and the architects have told us, is a very solid building. It obviously needs maintenance work. The Harrington wing there where the oil derrick is the newest, but it poses a lot of safety issues in there. And so the architects are going to have to make that decision. But I think you're looking probably at $20 to $40 million as a practical matter to get the museum reopened. And we've been struggling with that issue. Do you put money into the current building if you're going to build a new building? Because that doesn't make any sense. And so that's kind of left everything suspended for a while. But I think if you're going to keep it in Canyon, I think the museum is going to either have to be affiliated with West Texas A&M or with the Historical Commission, one of those two. I don't see any other option. And so here's the other thing. We're going to have to go to the legislature a year from now and ask for somewhere between 20 and 40 million, maybe some combination of public and private money if we want to try to get that building open again. Also, all of the collection is going to have to be removed, whatever happens, because if you're going to renovate that building, you need to get the collection out of there, and it needs to be someplace that's very safe, that's secure, and that's going to be very expensive. In fact, the chancellor at A&M asked the Historical Commission to run the numbers of what it would cost to store that for up to 5 years. And we got some preliminary numbers on that. And I think that's a foregone conclusion that's going to happen. I think the A&M system will be very helpful in trying to work something out. The chancellor has been very good with us. And I was down there a couple of weeks ago and I talked to the chancellor about it. And he said, we're not going to leave the museum hanging. He said, we want to find an acceptable outcome for the museum. He's very much aware of that. In fact, I would say this, within 24 hours after he got the job, I received a phone call from him. I've known him for 20 or 30 years, and I got a phone call from the new chancellor, and he said, we need to work out something on the museum. So they haven't just dumped this. And I think a lot of people are under that impression that Dr. Wendler has closed the museum, that A&M has gotten rid of the museum. That's not true at all. They are as serious about looking for a solution as I think any of us are. And they're trying to do what they can under the circumstances that have been presented. But here's the real message I want to give you today, and that is one of the problems we had last time is we went too late. Into the legislative session. And you have to understand how the appropriations process works. The Appropriations Committee in the House and the Finance Committee in the Senate will begin meeting this summer to set next year's budget. They will issue, and the governor's office will also, their budget office will start working on a proposed budget. These proposed budgets will be released sometime in probably late November, early December of this year for next legislative session. It is very, very difficult once those budgets have been put in place to get a place in those budgets. You need to start early. So I think we've got to have some resolution. And Mayor, you addressed this. Time's running out. Time's passing quickly. We've got to have a definite plan in place and a definite ask to the appropriators. This is what we need. It's a one-time appropriation. It's essential to get this museum back open. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from to try to help the parties that are the actual decision makers put together a plan that we can at least present to the appropriators at the appropriate time, which is going to be sometime this summer to get the museum back open. But like I say, it's unthinkable that the museum would close. It still breaks, I think, my heart and everybody else's heart to drive by there and see that sign out in front of the door where you can't get in the door. So anyway, that's pretty much, I've been working on any idea. I've told everybody we don't have a lot of options at this point, but we've got ideas. And so we've got possibilities. There are some private funding possibilities that we've talked to, companies and foundations, different sources of possible funding. No definite commitments, but at least some interest, because everybody realizes how important that museum is, not just to the Panhandle, but to the entire state of Texas. You know, this area is a very unique area. The people are unique. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But that museum tells the story of who we are and why we're the way we are, which is a tremendous story to tell. And not only for the young people growing up in this area, but for people who come in from other areas. So anyway, that's the message I've got, is we need to get something going really soon here. I think this is a marriage that we've had all these years between West Texas Normal College that became West Texas State, now West Texas A&M, and the Historical Society. And both partners need to be willing to continue that, for it to work. I think Dr. Wendler has indicated if he can find a way, he would like to. I think the society has to make that commitment as well, that's what they want to stay on the campus of West Texas A&M. I wouldn't say this marriage is over, but it has been somewhat on the rocks here lately. And so we've got to get the commitment on both sides to make this happen, I think, in order to actually make it happen. So I'll be glad to ask and answer any questions or wait around for a while too.
One question, the THC question, whether they would take control, seal discussions there, or where is that piece?
I think the answer to that is I don't know right now. The Historical Commission actually met up here. Did they tour the museum while they were here or not? We didn't get them over here. They met up here in Amarillo, but I know that
closed. Yeah.
We would have gotten Dr. Wendler would have gotten them in there if they met in Amarillo. But I will say that they're aware of the situation. They're very interested in preserving that collection, however it's preserved. They do not want the collection to go away or not be available for the public. And I think they'll be very helpful in that regard. But you know, they have no real budget except what the legislature appropriates. So you're ultimately going to have to go through the legislature on it.
Thank you, Representative. I appreciate it, and we'll go ahead, and we've got a pretty good list of folks that would like to speak, and we'll, as Gretchen Mercer is our city secretary, as she's saying, as we do this, Gretchen, I think you want to kind of tell our format and for each of the speakers before we start this, and we're 3 minutes, and then we will allow some discussion back, but yeah, it needs to be civil as well. So typically, speakers just address the commission. So,
and I'll try to give you a 30-second warning. Do not speak out of the audience without being recognized by the mayor, please. That just keeps everybody's time in consideration, and it keeps it calm. So that's the main things, and please direct your questions to the mayor or Dr. Windler or Mr. Smithy.
all right. With that, and part of our procedure is if you would come up to the podium, give your name and address, please. The first is Wayne Hughes.
Just stepped out.
We'll go to the next, and if he comes back in, I'll put then Lisa Jackson.
Lisa Jackson, 2400 14th Avenue. Okay, 2400 14th Avenue in Canyon, Texas.
Thank you for being here, Lisa, and yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I represent the group that's called Save Our Panhandle Plains Historical Museum. It's a Facebook online. And our express goal is to keep the museum here in Canyon and in its current location. We have concerns. Do A&M system in the Panhandle Plains Historical Society as 501c3 tax exempt organizations realize their obligations towards transparency to their stakeholders, which are the people of the Panhandle? Is it appropriate for the request of a descendant of Quanah Parker to be ignored when asked about the fate of their iconic Parker lance and headdress, or any other donor to PPHM? How is it legal for WT and the TAMU system to be in breach of contract regarding the 1932 Memorandum of Agreement? There, the key phrase in perpetuity should mean something. And why has the Society Board capitulated to this breach of contract? How will museum staff manage relocating the collections, which will be a truly monumental task? How will they manage PPHN as a repository for federal, state, and local agencies where they have contracts already signed, paid in advance? Are they going to ask for a refund? There is also managing a sanctified room that's called the NAGPRA room in the archaeology department. It's devoted to holding human remains and funerary objects. Ceremonies took place to consecrate this room as a show of respect for the Native American cultural practices and beliefs. Will museum staff be able to maintain the integrity of this culturally sensitive space? How will they manage the case that is sealed and labeled with anthrax? How will they manage the early taxidermic mounts that contain arsenic? How will they encapsulate these specimens so that arsenic does not become airborne, and at what cost? These are questions concerning just one specific department. What about the rest of the extensive and historically valuable collections? The museum is AAM certified, and as a lengthy and expensive process, will this have to be repeated or located? Oh, time?
No, 30 seconds.
Oh. And an important question is, Why? As Dr. Windler and A&M ignored the academic value of the museum on the campus. I think that's important. And if a stadium cost $1, why couldn't the museum have a similar favor? And there is in the 2018 comprehensive plan for the city of Canyon, the advisory committee took surveys, and 3 of the questions, done.
If you can roll it.
Okay, there were 3 questions. Your favorite characteristic of Canyon, what is great about Canyon, and what do we preserve? And PPHM was included in each one of those. What can we preserve?
Thank you, Lisa. Brian Bailey.
Good evening. My name is Brian Bailey. I grew up in Amarillo, Texas. I live in Houston, Texas, 12607 Bexhill Drive. I happened to be coming up here on a visit when I was told that this meeting would be going on, and I just wanted to express my concern with, once I heard the museum was closing and that it was possibly leaving Canyon, Texas. For all the relatives that I have in Amarillo, for all the relatives that I have in Canyon, this is one of our things that we love to get together and go and visit the museum. I've also brought a lot of friends, just besides family. I brought a lot of friends to this area, and they've really enjoyed coming to see the museum over the years. And I'll point out a portion of it. The people have asked me what skin I have in the game with the museum. Now, some of the things that my family has donated there, I don't really wish to divulge. Some of it, we are that unique breed of people that Representative Smithy touched on. We are the pioneers. I think that one of the things that concerns me the most is, just like I told my boys this afternoon when we came up here, the museum wasn't open, and I'm concerned about the welfare of Canyon in this, because economically, what's it going to do to y'all? We came up just as we would any other time. We went and had lunch. The museum wasn't there, but we went and had lunch. Then we went and did some shopping, just 3 of us, and we did somewhere in the neighborhood of about $170 worth of business in Canyon. I can't speak for everyone that comes up here, but in an economic standpoint, that's got to hurt the city, that it's, one, closed, and second of all, that it might be leaving. The resources are right there to leave it where it stays and keep that museum there. And I know that museums typically don't fund themselves. It takes outside affluence, it takes donations, and I'm not sure how to get there. But I really hope that you'll take a closer look at, down the road, what's it going to do to your economy. I'll miss the history part of it. I'll miss the cultural part of it. There's so much of it. There was something there for everyone, and I hope it will remain. I'll yield the floor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Katina Lesby.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for your time. Thank you for this opportunity. I am Katina Lusby. I live on Tiffany Lane in Canyon. As a schoolgirl from a tiny town 100 miles north of here, I rode a yellow school bus to take in the vast wonders of the Panhandle Plains History Museum. Countless thousands across the Panhandle have no doubt shared similar eye-opening experiences and have visited numerous times after. My family lines came to the Texas Panhandle in 1905 and 1907, setting up farm and stock operations in Hutchinson County. They established homes, schools, churches, cemeteries, served as county commissioners, served in civic groups, PTA, agricultural, and youth clubs. My grandmothers both attended West Texas Normal and became rural school teachers. In its very early years, they were at WT. These are the kinds of historical, cultural, anthropological and sociological records and treasures preserved in the PPHM collections and archives. Countless educators, students, famous artists and authors, some yearning to make their own mark in the world, have researched in our great institution. My husband's great uncle, M.S. Lusby, was a first-generation immigrant from Lincolnshire, England. He moved as a lad to South Texas, but by 1891, this enterprising young man chased opportunities and became Canyon's first studio photographer. His photos are there and there and there, and they stop about right there, when he retired and sold his studio to the Britons, who all of you must remember. His photos are in PPHM's archival collections, and they should stay in Canyon. Amarillo had its own photographers at the same time, but in Canyon, M.S. Lusby was the only photographer. This city needs to come alongside this institution. We need to find an Alice Walton who funded a beautiful new art museum in Bentonville, Arkansas, just 15 years ago from her own pockets. We have the Bivens, we have the Harringtons, we have Cody Campbell, we have the Hamilton boys who might offer land for us. We need to build a purpose-built building and put this museum on the map as a thriving, wonderful new cultural institution that can serve many people, many more than it already does. Canyon is centrally located in the Panhandle. It is strategically placed on I-27. It is the gateway to Palo Duro Canyon. Surely there is a path forward to keep this landmark institution in Canyon. Amarillo does not deserve this. Lubbock does not deserve this, but I would be happy to partner with Texas Tech and the Southwest Collection. Let's think big and make a huge leap forward in the museum world, and let's keep it in Canyon.
Stephen Bogner.
Thank you for giving us this platform to express our views on this important topic. My name is Stephen Bogner. I live at 402 4th Avenue. I'm a former college professor in the Department of History, a former coordinator of the Public History program. I've taken countless students through the museum on tours for research projects. I finally remember tours given by Michael Grauer, who was a former curator there. And in my opinion, the museum is not just about Canyon, although we're all representing that view, I think, in many ways here. This is like the Alamo. This is like a shrine. This is the largest repository of historical materials in the entire state. The Bullock Museum, which is not a repository, borrows materials from here. All the good stuff comes from here. You have partnerships with Native American groups. You cannot willy-nilly take this stuff out the back door like you would for a garage sale. It doesn't work that way. There are protocols. There are legal issues. For example, the agreement in 1932 between the university and the society. I don't believe that you can deaccession materials and abrogate that agreement that is almost 100 years old. You're going to sever a relationship that has contributed to the education of not only students at the university, but also school children who have fond memories of walking through that building, even to this day. I have to wonder who instigated the fire marshal's investigation of the building. I hear that there were 149 violations. I also hear, and I could be wrong, that 10 years before there were only 12 violations. How do you go from 12 to 149? I think some of those could be remedied very quickly. The other thing is, if the building is in such disrepair, why did not the university, like they do with all the other buildings on campus, stay up with the maintenance of that building? Why all of a sudden is it that this building should be condemned? So these are questions that should be answered.
You have 30 seconds.
Okay. I think that we need to keep in mind that Panhandle Plains is part of the identity of Canyon, Texas. It shouldn't be in Amarillo.
Amen.
It shouldn't be in Lubbock.
Amen.
And I have fond ties with Lubbock. I worked at the Southwest Collection with Ty Kreidler for many years. I think that that is part of the identity of this place. Thank you very much.
Doug Tanner.
Thank you. I actually hadn't intended to speak, but I welcome the opportunity. I was gone from here for about 40 years and came back about 15 years ago when I started thinking about retirement. Two of my 2 degrees are from WT, both of them in history, bachelor's and master's. And I'm very fond of the area. I'm living in Amarillo and enjoying it very much, and I've contributed to the museum tangentially on one or two occasions of sketches of the petroleum pioneers that went into the exhibit in the reopened Petroleum Hall. I'm a little disturbed by our not having heard from any representatives of the museum itself. We've heard from the president of the university, and we've heard from Representative Smithy, but I would have thought that a museum of this size would have had a director who could speak up for the museum. And I'm wondering who is speaking for the museum and for the Historical Society, and why aren't we hearing from them? That disturbs me. It's a point of view that I think should be represented, and I do wish that it would be addressed. I know that there's a plan afoot that's supposed to be delivered to the president of the university for how to transfer the collections, but I really wish someone would speak up for these institutions who are from these institutions. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Have, I guess, 2 here, Janie Louder and Ray Pritchard.
I really didn't come to speak, but I can't keep my mouth shut. I'm a long-time Randall County, well, not long time, but I grew up on a farm southwest of Canyon, Dryland Farm. Went all my years to Canyon, graduated WT. My roots are here. I haven't lived here in probably 40 years, but that museum, oh my goodness, when I was growing up, well, I'll just put it this way. I never thought I'd see the day that we would be having this discussion. I do want to thank the City of Canyon, Dr. Wendler, Representative Smithy, for being here and airing what's going on. Because I will tell you, there's sure a lot of stuff going on Facebook that we just can't believe everything that we read and hear. But this is a very serious problem. That museum, to me, in my heart, is just like Paladura Canyon. You take away the museum, you're taking away the canyon. Buffalo Lake is already gone. But I do hope and pray that there can be some solutions. And I guess I'm very disappointed that we've come to this point in time. We can appoint blame hither and yon, and there really probably are a lot of problems that we don't really understand. But I do encourage WTA&M to try to step up and try to find a solution to all of this, because that museum is a treasure. And my late artist husband, I donated 2 very important pieces of art that I don't want to have to regret having done that, because they're very reflective of this part of the world. But anyway, thank you all so much for allowing this venue to have happened, because it certainly opened my eyes to other points of view. So thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Is Ray Pritchard here?
I think that was one person on that.
Okay. Very good.
Well, I just couldn't help myself. My first husband was city manager here when this building was being built. So I have a lot of roots here in Canyon.
We talk about George occasionally.
I never thought I would live in Amarillo, but Amarillo's okay.
She didn't say he went to go to be a PRPC.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Thank you. Jennifer Landrum?
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate the time. I grew up here in Canyon, went to school here from kindergarten through my senior year. Went to school at WT. My dad was a professor at WT for 50 years. And I came today because I just think it's a huge mistake to lose the museum here in Canyon. I think that the museum is a part of what puts us on the map. I think that it's a huge educational hands-on resource for not only the school children, but also WT. And I think that it would be a mistake for WT to lose that huge resource for their university as well. I appreciate what I've heard tonight, explaining the problem that we have here. But I also want to express that, you know, taking the museum away from Canyon is cutting the history that we have here away from where it was taken. And so if there is any way of saving it and keeping it here in Canyon, I really hope that we can figure that out. I don't know if it's been explored that we can maybe somehow connect it to Palo Duro Canyon, since it does preserve so much history from Palo Duro Canyon. That might be a way that we could get some other funding or something like that. But if it does need to be moved, I hope that it still stays in the city of Canyon. I think that it's a very important part of our history, but it also, I think, does help us economically. Thank you.
Did Wayne Hughes come back in? And then had one, I'm not sure, wanted to speak or not, Mel Clayton.
My name is, stay with my voice, Mel Clayton. I live at 109 10th Avenue here in town. I'm a 1969 graduate of WT. I was raised in Fletcher County. As the crow flies, I was raised up 8 miles south of Tool Creek, which dumps into Lake McKenzie, and then on into Capark Canyon. A camping, hunting area of Native Americans, one of which is the well-known Quanah Parker. That's part of the J.A. Ranch down in there with Colonel Goodnight. All of that is in this museum. And there's probably going to be some issues with some of those Native American associations. But if we go to jacking around with some of that stuff that belongs to Indians, we won't have another uprising. And it's going to be on Tierra Blanca. It's not going to be Red River War. I've heard Dr. Windler say his speech. I've got a question to him. I heard there's a timeline, but I haven't heard the time. How much time do we have? Are we talking 6 months? Are we talking a year before a plan has to be submitted?
Both the mayor and Representative Smithy indicated that the time is short, and this same thing happened to us in the last session. But I think we have time, and I think by early summer, we should be able to have a fairly good idea, a plan that we can carry forward, and I would defer to Representative Smithy.
So we're talking basically 6 months, you think?
Yeah, yeah.
In that area. And did I understand that the lieutenant governor, whatever he, who is stalling putting this on the agenda in Congress for the state?
Oh, well, there's really no one person. It goes to the committees in both the House and the Senate that deal with this.
Are you the only one carrying the flags there?
Well, I represent this area. I'm the only one that represents Randall County. And there's a senator, Senator Sparks, and, he's indicated he will be helpful as well. And, all of our Panhandle representatives, I think, are on board with this. I mean, it's a Panhandle institution, so. But we were still in the minority.
I don't know. To me, as much problem as you got with that building, looks to me like we need to go for another building. And I would suggest putting it out between here and the I-27. I heard complaints about the admission is not where it ought to be. You put it out there on that highway, I would almost guarantee that admission is going to at least double. People are going to whip off, see signs, they're going to whip off that interstate, spend 2 or 3 hours there, and then hit that road again.
3 minutes.
So that would be an ideal place to put it. Maybe either on, I'm thinking probably on the north side of, what is that, 217? Is that 217 going out toward the King?
Yep.
But maybe on the north side there. That's a good scenic area. I don't know what it would cost to put up a new building, but the Panhandle has come to bat before on raising money for WT to fund various projects. I've seen that this is a Panhandle project. It goes all the way down to all the 26 counties, I would say, has a stake in this. And I don't know who needs to head this thing up, but I would suggest it probably be the Historical Commission. Is there one called Panhandle Historical Commission? If they be the ones in charge.
Panhandle Plains Historical Society. They're
Society.
the ones that own the collection.
Okay. So is it possible that they would take over management of something like that? I like the idea of creating a visitor center. And that way you got.
Clayton, your time's up. Your time's up.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. We have one more, Barry Bearden.
My name is Mary Bearden, and I live at 6404 Willow Oak Place in Amarillo, Texas. I am a past president of the Panhandle Plains Historical Society. And when I heard the people in the audience say that they were sorry that nobody from the society was here, I just wanted you to know that I'm here, and Alice Hyde, another former president, is here, and we are all talking and are as concerned as you are about the situation. We have looked at alternatives all the way from litigation to reconciliation. And we find the ideas presented here today very helpful. And I am actually encouraged by the feeling of camaraderie that I see, because I was worried that the parties would not be able to find middle ground. So I hope, based on what we hear today and what the legislature and A&M and the society can do, we can keep the Panhandle Plains Museum. We don't know where it will be or how soon it will be. I'm also glad to know that we are aware of the 1932 agreement, and I'm very interested in that as well, and how that might still be in effect and have an effect on the parties today. I had a lot of questions that I made while I was sitting here, and I will continue to ask them. I'm retired now, but I was a lawyer in my former life. So I have been reading all the agreements. I will read I've been reading the Facebook page and found a number of agreements there, but also I'll look at the website that Dr. Windler gave us. I think it will be very important for us. I was concerned about.
Since she's past president of PPHS,
I was concerned about the closing of the museum and why it couldn't be opened more quickly with certain corrections to the deficiencies that were identified. And I'm still concerned about that. But I have been given some comfort today to know that the society's employees are working hopefully in a safe place. And they are working, I know, to try to keep the museum and especially the collection safe and together and organized. So it's, Alice and I appreciate your being here. One of the things we'll have to do is raise money. So when we come knocking at your door, just remember the students of Canyon brought their pennies for bricks, so we may be bringing some dollars to the museum as well. So thank you again, and let's do the best we can to save the museum. Thank you.
We do have one last one here, Deidre Wright.
Hello, my name is Deidre Wright. I live at 10101 10 Point Road in Canyon, Texas, the new wonderful subdivision out on Helium and Rockwell. My husband works for the county sheriff's office, helping take care of stray animals. So we're very involved in the community. We're very involved in the ongoings of what is happening within the county. I'm an emerging museum professional. I just graduated with my master's degree in museum sciences and heritage management. And my concern is the objects, the history of these objects. Are they being taken care of? And in the process of renovating and they're being moved, are they going to be stored properly in humid controlled, environment controlled places? Because if they deteriorate with the move and then they come back and they're even more destroyed, we're really upsetting these donors and these people. So by the grace of God, if we make this new museum and we update this new renovation or what have you, how are we holding ourselves accountable so this doesn't happen again? And how do we make sure that the right people are controlling these objects and the right builders know what they're doing to make sure the safety of these objects remain intact? So while the importance of the history in this community is gathered and spoken the most, are these objects being justified, and are these objects being advocated for appropriately? Especially with the Native American remains, the funerary objects, the art, and the clothing that has apparently been the problem with combustibles being stacked on top. How we're focusing now, which is great to fix the problem, but we also need to focus long-term of making sure we don't run into this problem again. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I believe that we have, everyone has had a chance to speak who signed in. Representative Smithy, Dr. Wendler, would you all like to add anything to that?
I appreciate the commentary and good insights, and I'm very thankful for it. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Well, thank you both. We appreciate it and really appreciate the interest of everybody here. So with that, back to official business for the city of Canyon. I think we decided we'd defer just interest and input as far as different avenues that we might have to, you know, may not be the biggest piece of the pie, but to make a difference in all. So,
I'm just thankful to hear from everyone, get more clarity on what the situation is.
So let me kind of sort out, we've got like 3 different avenues. Are we good pursuing to see more what we could do with the hotel motel tax, the BCD funds?
Gathering more information to see what part the city could take part in a plan is always beneficial. So I think what would that be, and what piece of that puzzle would the city be able to play into? And then I guess working with whoever would actually be the one to spearhead this process. I don't know if that's the city or if that's the commission or council.
You know, I think probably Joe and John dig in, and yes, with council too, to see what we could do. So. You know, I personally think, you know, anything we can do in our part, you know, in the Life Museum and you know, what this does bring to commerce and you know, quality of life here in Canyon, that, you know, I would sure like to see. And probably on all fronts, I would like to at least explore the possibility. You know, I think residents probably, you know, if we put it out there and Megan Nelson, you know, from a marketing part, or not really marketing, but just communicating well on the hotel motel tax. You know, I think that could be a good piece to it. And again, that's not just a huge piece, but unless anybody has opposition, at this point, that's probably exploring that piece more. Joe and John, I'm bringing that back to us.
Our attorney. You gotta make Chuck work too.
Sure.
I've already been working.
And, you know, lastly, the EDC. The EDC's already been a one that's helped and fund the museum. Again, you know, we've got, there's the commerce piece, but we're also a 4B, a quality of life EDC too. So I think that's worth exploring and seeing what pieces we might be able to help with there too. So, anybody opposed to digging into some of those?
It's worth taking any avenue that we can from the city, look at possibly helping us. This is going to be beneficial. I don't know what piece of the puzzle, like I said, that we'll be able to play as for the financial side of that. But if there's a piece that we can play into that and work with the system, I mean, I know working with the A&M system is going to be key also, and the legislative system, because that's really where the money and the decision making is going to actually take place is at the legislative area and then with the A&M system on the building itself and being on their property. So I think they're big pieces of the puzzle, and where we can fit into that is going to be imperative.
I feel like if we're willing to help too, that does speak a lot to PPHS too. That you know, if we said we weren't going to help, you know, well, I think on their side, you know, look to other places, other sources, and all too. So I think it's important for us to.
And I would like to charge that society with continuing to move forward on trying to find the donors for the process to move forward, because we know it's probably not going to be 100% funded through the legislature of what's going to be needed to be done. We know the A&M system is probably not going to put funds towards it. They may allow us to keep the building intact, you know, to fund it, but they're not going to put funds towards it. So it's going to take a lot of people to move forward. A lot of.
You know, again, I really appreciate the relationships we have and the relationship I've had with Dr. Wendler. And yeah, I come at it from a business standpoint and probably think outside the box a little bit and think, you know, are there things we could do to get it there? And anyway, I'd love if could be a part of that dialogue to, you know, think through, not our building, it's your building, but appreciate being able to be part of the dialogue. So thank you.
Any way that we can contribute, you know, obviously it's super valuable, but you know, we're such a small piece of that pie. You know, I think it's important that we do what we can, for sure, but that is a monumental, you know, it's an ongoing, you know, it's not just about the building. It's about how do we fund that for the future, and our dollars are so small. I do think we need to be invested in it, and I think we need to show our support in that way, because that's really the only avenue that we have. But I mean, to sit here and think that we're going to be able to be a factor in this game is really difficult for me to wrap my mind around.
I think our biggest factor is going to be influence. Yeah. We all know someone that knows someone, and I was encouraged to know that there are some benefactors that may be interested in helping. And but we all know people, and we know people of influence, and we know people of influence that are passionate about this project. And so that's what we need to be doing. We need to go out and beat the bushes and talk to people, because everyone I've spoken to about the museum is as passionate as I am and as passionate as you are. So that's the way we get it done. But we just can't sit back and expect someone else to do it. We need to talk to people and go out there and beat the bushes. And there's people out there that are passionate about it, that have the funds and the means to help support it. So I think that's one of the biggest things that we can do, and I think the city supporting all of that, and you know, it may be small, but we're passionate about it, and people need to see that we're behind it, and if we're behind it, they'll get behind it. So I'm grateful for everyone that spoke. Very grateful.
I have a question about the plan of action moving forward and needing to have a plan in place. Does that mean that the plan needs to include where the funding would come from, or what the request of funding is to the legislature? How specific does that plan have to be when you're thinking next 6 months?
Well, we have a number of plans, some of which are on that timeline, that we've looked at that top out at a lot of money, $250 million, but down somewhat north of $40 million. And of course, there's the larger ones are more ambitious. But what we need to do is focus in on one of those and then get, I think, some, for me, fairly significant parameters established about how much we can raise locally, how much could come from talking about taxes. I'm not bringing it up. You guys are talking about it. Taxes, how much can come from private gifts,
and so on and so forth. And we're going to work very hard on that with the fundraising. You know, we're pretty much at the conclusion of our fundraising campaign. It's been very successful. It hasn't been as successful with the museum. As a matter of fact, it just has not been successful. And we need to work. So, I was just going to say, and then if we could get figure out what the total cost was, let's just say we came up with half of it with other than state resources. Then go back and say, look, we've raised half of this. This is an important part of the state of Texas. We established the Cultural Foundation of the Texas Panhandle to help support PPHM and also TPHF, the play, because these things are so critical to the culture here. And a number of people spoke about how important that is, how important it has been in their past, but it's important also to the future, I think, of the Panhandle. It's a way of life. It's much more than just history. It's future looking. And I think we need to challenge people with that idea and not run away from our past. Use our past to inform what our future looks like. And John said it very nicely. We live in a very distinctive part of Texas. You all know that. You're here in the middle of it. This meeting is an example. And I just think we need to get a plan going and get going on it, and then come with some fairly significant parameters. I'm sorry, John, I interrupted.
Oh, no, I interrupted you. No,
That's
think,
right. You did.
I did. I didn't mean to. I think a reasonable target for Jane, I'm no architect or estimator, but I think from what I've heard from everybody, a reasonable minimum target is somewhere around $40 to $50 million. And I think if you could do that half raised locally and half through the state, that's a attainable goal. And I'm telling you, if you walk down to the state with having raised or committing to raise $20 to $25 million locally, you're going to get a lot more attention from them instead of saying, here, we want y'all to pay for this whole thing. I mean, it makes a big difference. And there we've got people, I'm not saying they would, but we got people that could cover that part of it, half of it with writing one check. But we just need to find those people.
Here's some ideas.
I think we all know
you have
them.
some ideas.
I think we know them.
Mary, did you want to?
I have one other comment, and that is there's another plan of action in place, to my understanding. I'm not currently on the board, but it is my understanding that the society has been given a plan of action that we have to have the archives out, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Windler, by February 1st. And let's change that if we might.
No, and we can. What I challenged the society was with a plan of action to get the place for the archives, more permanent storage facilities for the archives and the materials that we can begin to work on, have the plan, and then begin a process, because we have to get things out of that building in order to fix what the fire marshal has. And these are not, I mean, we've talked to architects and engineers from all over Texas and paid them good money to do estimates and figure out what to do on this. And the challenge is that we need temporary storage.
Right, and I think they're working like crazy, but February 1st just seemed.
I know, and they told me that, and I agree, but a plan could be a very general plan, and then we could begin to talk about it.
Right, and we can move the critical items first.
Yes.
I mean, it was never, Dr. Winter never set a deadline of February to get everything out.
No.
It was just to develop a plan with maybe
See how stories grow.
another year. So,
Yeah, so we could have, yes, and you know, the expense of $100,000 a month for us is a significant. People think, oh, they've got a $200 million budget. But the city has a good sized budget. I don't know what it is.
26 million.
How many?
26.
And how much of that is unaccounted for?
None.
Same at WT. There's no difference. It's all got a tab on it. And this is a tab that the museum, this is not a complaint, it's a statement of fact. We've been funding this out of general revenue for a long time, and the contraction of state funds to universities is natural. And, you know, it is what it is. We can't, you know, we do the best we can. Those funds are contracting. The forces of inflation are whittling down the power of the dollars that we do have, and it just I'll tell you, it's daunting. Some days it's flat frustrating. Thankfully, I'm good friends with Gary, and I call him and complain about it, or John Smith. It's very complicated. But all I want is the beginning of a plan that we can begin to talk about, and I'll meet once a week with them, and I'll get everybody that needs to be there to meet once a week and talk about a plan. But we need to people of goodwill get together and think about this in the future and how we try to address it. But it's not like anything else on the campus. As a matter of fact, there's not another situation like this in the whole state. The Ranching Heritage Museum at Texas Tech, that's a much different kind of operation. And the Stone Fort Museum at Stephen F., a whole different. We have got a very unique problem here, and we haven't done a good job, I don't think, of communicating the value of what the Panhandle has and the museum has as the bucket that all of this history is in. We have not communicated with you. And it's not for lack of trying, but we haven't been successful, period.
Do you have one quick question?
Question for the president. If we have a draft due date of removal of the archives by February the 1st, what is your draft linear foot space necessity? I figure you have that already in hand. How much?
Well, right now, between exhibit space and archival space, we have 217,000 square feet. We've worked with Gallagher and Associates, who are internationally known museum consultants. They say we've got a lot more space than we need and many more artifacts than we need. We have to cull the collection.
But a linear foot space accommodation, you don't have that. That's what really feeds the bulldog in a move, and I've moved an entire archive. So that's what I'm asking you. If you've got a firm move date of February the 1st, I figure you have a firm amount of linear space you need storage for.
I don't, honestly. But if we had a plan of action, we're not going to move these things February 1st. If we had a plan of action, one aspect of that plan would say, okay, we've got, say, 110,000 square feet of archival storage right now. I'll say 110, which is a rough cut. How much do we need to store the archives, not for display or anything, but storage, good storage? And the young woman that spoke about the importance of making sure that the objects and the artifacts are not diminished either through the move or in the storage. They're being diminished in the storage right now. We've got uniforms and clothing, textiles that are sloughing off, I think is the correct term, sloughing off the hangers down. It grieves me to see it.
Well, good luck on the artifacts. I'm just interested in the manuscripts.
Yeah, I think it's something on the order of 80 or 90,000 square feet to store what we.
All right. Well, thank you all. I appreciate everybody being here, and yes, thanks for being here to answer questions and represent Smithy and Dr. Wendler. Really appreciate that. Barry, I appreciate your input for the Panhandle Historical Society too. So, thank you all. I have 6:46, and at this time, the City Commission is going to adjourn into exec session. So, thank you all.
Fill out the code section.
Oh, yeah, no. It's a lot. That's why we established this.